I'm standing on the shoreline of Eagle Lake, which is outside Susanville. The water is supposed to come to these rocks. The lake is almost dry. This is the second largest lake in the state of California, freshwater lake. And there's nothing left. This is 3 to 4 years of major drought in California. If these lakes and reservoirs continue to dry up, many of the towns in the Sierras will become ghost towns. This is a prime example of climate change. It's a very large lake with multiple coves. Those coves are dry. This is a great wildlife viewing area. They have they're called eagle trout, and they're only found here. I bet you due to the water being so low that most of the fish are dying off, or they're just not stocking it anymore. They have cabins on the lake. Can you imagine buying $1 million house? Can you imagine buying $1 million house on the lake? It's no longer lakefront property, but a giant mud bowl. Can you imagine that? If this is a mega drought, it could last for 1,000 years. Which means a lot of ghost towns, a lot less water, less wildlife. It'll go to higher elevations up in the Sierras. There's no boats out there. This makes me extremely sad. Wow. Good thing we're not hiking here. I bet you Ash Creek Wilderness is going to be dry too. They have kind of a marshland or lake, and I feel that it's going to be completely dry, which means no eagles, no sand cranes, ducks, geese, nothing. There's a rare bird. Oh. I mean, think about it. If you wanted to go swimming or fishing, you'd have to walk a half mile out to get to any water. This giant basin is supposed to be filled with water. There's camping on the lake, but there is no lake. It's disheartening. I really hope that we get much more abrasive winter next year and that we start receiving more rain. If we don't, we're in a lot of trouble, folks. We are in a lot of trouble. Alright, I'm heading off to Ash Meadows. Let's hope we can see some antelope. Peace. We're driving to Ash Creek Wildlife Area. There's meadows everywhere. There's these rodents that keep running across the road. I haven't seen any more. I'll try to film them on my way out. They're kind of cute. They got bushy tails. Maybe they're bushy tail wood rats. Possibility. They do exist in California. But there is a small lake or pond, or call it whatever you want to call it, and there's some hiking. There's 14,000 acres here of trails and
the wildlife area.
Oh, we're here. And fishing access. Cool. At least I'm not lost. So we're here. The road's not all that friendly. The grass grows pretty high in some areas. But you know, to get out and walk around and take some photos, there's a picnic bench. I'm okay with that. There's a pond, a lake over here. I'm not too sure how you get to it. Maybe that's not a lake. I thought I seen some water. It's supposed to be a very secluded area. There's supposed to be antelope.
Those things again. They're just popping in and out of the
Yeah, they pop out one hole and come out the other. There it is. Oh, don't go. They are so scared of vehicles, they just... They just take off and head for the hills. Like, leave me alone, leave me alone. we're here. This is not a paranormal area, but we are putting this on the website. Just, oh, I know that's attractive. We are putting it on the website so people can enjoy this beautiful area the same way I'm going to enjoy it. The Ash Creek Wildlife Area has about 14,000 acres. This is Big Valley, and it is big. Many miles across, 360 degrees. Supposed to be wetlands. Marshlands. It just seems like the area is lacking. I don't know. Everything seems to be fenced off. It's not very well maintained. A lot of snakes probably in the brush. There's also 3,000 acres of natural wetlands, little communities. There's a little town up the road that I stopped at for gas. This place is known for its pronghorn antelope, beaver, and bobcat. That's the whole reasoning for me coming here, is to see some bobcat or some beavers. Yeah, you just never know what you might see. There is a campground area where you can hike. Probably should have went there because they have more trails. This area is kind of fenced in, but I can still get pretty pictures and views. It's just that looking for Bigfoot here, it's just too wide open. Unless something comes down, hunts, and goes right back up into the mountains at night. It's a possibility. There's also bird species that include waterfowls, sandhill cranes, falcons, sage grouse, short-eared owls, and bald eagles. And I've seen some falcon or a hawk. It's hard to tell the two from so far away. A lot of open land. It's very picturesque here. This is not really a paranormal investigation of any kind. This is just a nice place I decided to visit in hopes of seeing some antelope. And I have not seen any. But you know what? It's okay. Like I said, I mean, we had a really nice experience with nature on the Biz Johnson Trail. Something big was trucking through the forest. Yet there was nothing there. It stood still when I paid mind to it, which was a little bit on the unsettling, creepy side. It means it's something that's very wise, not necessarily Bigfoot. Still, you never know. It just, all it takes is one incident with a sighting. So it's definitely a nice wildlife area. I wanted to go to the Meadows. That way I have 360 degrees of panorama views. Some beautiful mountains in the area. And yeah, you can make your own expedition of something too. You don't necessarily have to follow any path. The problem is, we could look for tracks down in here, but we are surrounded by a lot of farmland here, you know, and this is great for track finding, this type of soft mud. I'm here to look for tracks. And like, you know, here's a track right here. Something with a Bigfoot stepped through here. I'm not saying it's Bigfoot, but I'll mark it down. I mean, if you look at the width is gigantic compared to my foot. Hypothetically speaking, if you start right here at the, let's say it's about 7 inches wide. We'll give it some room on each side to collapse. But this print here, this is extremely large, or very wide print. If I bring it to the very edge, it's almost 8 inches in length. See where it starts? It's almost 8 inches in width. Length? Let's get the length on this. Hold on. About 13 inches. Here's the thing. If it was a human foot, if it's 13 inches in length, why is it 8 inches in width? Somebody has a very short but wide foot. Very unusual. We'll document it. This is a wildlife area, and Bigfoot loves those. It's easy pickings when you're the king of the forest. I kind of came to the conclusion that this area is very restricted. It does not mean it's not worth hiking here, but there's two different areas. One's the wildlife viewing area, and then you have the campground. Now the campground, it supposedly has some wetlands, marshes, and trails. The problem is you have to go through someone's driveway, which is a little weird, but you are allowed to go through there. However, this is, you know, this is the main area of Ash Creek. There's never really nobody up here. It's a good spot to look for tracks. I mean, you are surrounded by mountains, and technically, you know, 3 a.m. if Bigfoot comes down and trucks it, they could be from the top of the mountain down to these meadows in 15-20 minutes perhaps, and already be picking off a deer or a bobcat or anything that it can hunt and eat. There's water. It's very secluded. You know, there's a few ranches out here. But this area is renowned for having Bigfoot. This is the Modoc National Forest. I've never been in the Modoc National Forest. I just seen a beaver. This is all wildlife area. You know, granted, it's not very large. If we go to the campground, I think there's a lake back in there. But like I said, I can't even find this place. Is hard enough to find. Things are not really labeled very well. It's just something you have to take into consideration. But there are some small paths. I believe there's also the rodent that I seen running around, or what I thought was a rodent. No, squirrels kind of are. They're ground squirrels. I also seen a beaver just now. Yeah, this place is pretty damn amazing. And all due considering, it's a pretty nice place. Oh, there he is. Just went under. I see so much wildlife that I can film. That's the truth. All the time when I go out. Sometimes I film it, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just watch it. It's always important to check for tracks in these muddy areas, which there are none. There are none. It's God's country here. I just now heard a bald eagle, but I don't know where he is. This is Big Valley, 360 degrees. How small do you feel now? Just gives you an idea of how awesome the places that we go or visit, it gives you an idea of how great these places are that we journey and visit. And I realize some of them are public places, but I do my own exploring at a lot of them. That's why I find tracks and oddities, because I kind of go off the trail. I wander and I get out and explore. That's something a lot of people don't do. They should do, but they don't. So, you know, I'm here to look at nature. Really not here for the paranormal. I found a track. It kind of had, at the end of the track, like there was a couple impressions for toes. Almost as if it put all its weight on the heel of its foot and not too much on the front. And it was just too muddy for whatever step there. It could be human. There's no boot treads though. So it's got to make you wonder. Has to. We'll keep at it. Get her done. Check us out, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. We're leaving Ash Creek Wildlife Area. There is another area, supposedly according to a guy there, they run. You see that? The prairie dogs or ground squirrels.
Whatever they are.
There he is. Let's see if I can. Where? Oh. He's hiding behind the bushes, man. So we're looking for prairie dogs, ground squirrels, and they seem to be abundant here as I drive out of Ash Creek Wilderness Area. I came here for antelope. I did not see any. However, there's supposed to be a lake or a marshland. It's not anywhere near here. It's 6 or 7 miles down some dirt road, according to a local that I had talked with. However, back in there, oh, there's one that just crossed the road. There's 2 separate wildlife areas, and maybe the other area might have antelope or bobcats, but this area is an open prairie. So again, that explains the prairie dogs, ground squirrels that we're seeing here. Big Valley the name doesn't do it justice. This should be called Grand Valley. It is so large. There's just mountains everywhere. I'd love to find out where the other hiking trails are. Supposedly at the campground, the guy that I talked to at the general store told me there's at least a dozen trails. There's no trails here. There was a little overgrown creek trail and it dead ended at a barbed wire fence. So I definitely would be interested at seeing the other location. But the sun's going down, and by the time I get there, it's going to be dark. I like to hike at night, but at a decent place where you could kind of see the mountains and the moon glowing on them. Here, you're just in the middle of a marsh. You will see nothing. You won't see birds. You'll step in wet puddles. It's kind of hard because it's a 6 or 7 mile dirt road till you get there, and then you got to decide what trail do I want to take, where do I want to go in the marshland. Like I said, you have to look at the fact that this is a big open prairie. There's a lot of grassland, ranch land here. I did see a beaver. I've seen a few large fish jump out of the water. They appeared to be bass. Seen 3 new wildflowers I've never seen in the Sierras. I've never hiked in the Modoc National Forest, so I did do some hiking. It wasn't a very long hike, maybe a half mile till I reached this meadow with a barbed wire fence. But again, if I ever decide I want to stay at the campground, there is numerous trails that are out here. And they take you through marshland. And the other question is, since Eagle Lake being the 2nd largest lake in California, does this mean that the marshlands, which are only miles away from Eagle Lake, probably about 20 miles, 30 miles past Eagle Lake, is the marshland dried up? From what I know, I went out to a place called Stillwater, and every lake and every marshland was dry except perhaps 2 out of a dozen. Even if I did the 6 or 7 mile trek to hike through the marshland, the other question is that we must ask ourselves, is there any water? Without water, there is no Bigfoot, there is no birds, there is no wildlife. It's pretty country. So we're heading on out of here. We got to go through the Modoc National Forest into the Wetlands National Forest. So today I've hiked in 2 different national forests. You can kind of consider Wetlands National Forest part of Susanville. It really is. It's not the National Monument or the Lava Bed or the Lava Domes National Park. Both are adjacent to one another. And then you have Shasta. Tomorrow, supposedly, one of the areas we're hiking at, supposedly you could see a good view of Lassen Peak and possibly Shasta Peak on a clear day. We're going to go to the Cinder Dome. It's a volcano. We're also going to go to Bernie Falls, which is a 129-foot rushing waterfall. There's one that ran. And we'll go see the amazing Subway Cave, which is on lava tube. They are prevalent in this area. Lassen is a very volcanic, hot area. Lava flows through the ground up and around northern Lassen County. There's lava beds. I'd love to see one. I don't mind getting close as long as I don't step on the edge or where the crust is thin. You kind of got to stay on the trails. You can see these little boogers running across the road here. I'm going to zoom in for the last part of the video, see if we can get one of these on film. There's one. Did you see him? It was quick. Even though there wasn't much paranormal, I did find a very wide track with no boot print. It was odd. It looked like two toes were almost visible. There's a bird here. There's some magpies in the region also. A nice little ranch house. Down this road there was some too, wasn't there? When I first came in, or no? No, those cute little fur babies. One thing I have to say great about this area, it was remote. And it was good for a picnic. I actually sat down and I had myself an ice cold beer. And I don't mind saying that. And I took one too, because I'll tell you what. This is what living's about. I don't have an act to put on. I'm not a saint. I'm just a guy that likes the outdoors and adventuring, and I share it with my friends. And as long as you do it responsibly and safely, you could have all the fun you want. The sky's the limit. In regards to this region of Northern California, there's just so much to see and do. Could spend a lifetime in this county alone and still never see it all. Lassen County is magnificent. You got a high desert. This is the area where the Great Basin, the high desert, and the National Forest meet. So we're heading out. It's time to shut off the camera. We're going to leave Big Valley and we're going to head for Susanville. This is Lord Rick. Check us out, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. Eagle Lake. Once a vast blue paradise, now turning into a vast desert. Earlier I filmed a vast desert expanse. It's where the Great Basin meets up with California. Well, I didn't film it, I took a photo. It's an amazing area. It's where the alpine forest meets and the Great Basin. And Lassen. It's amazing. Eagle Lake. Once thriving, now almost gone. This is Lord Rick of the Paranormal Ghost Society. We're at the Copper Kettle, and I got a roast beef with gravy on sourdough and mashed potatoes, some home cooking. This used to be Hart's Cafe, which was a 50s, 60s diner. It closed. I just want to say we conquered the Biz Johnson Trail. We went to Ash Creek Wilderness area or wildlife area. Both places were equally beautiful. I found a few strange things at both places, but the birds, those birds were so quick I couldn't even get half of the wildlife. But to see it, it's a one-time event for me, even for some people. Tomorrow's a big day, and tomorrow we're going to go to Bernie Falls, the Subway Cave, and then we're going to hit the Cinder Dome before sunset and walk into an actual caldera. It's going to be a really great day, and maybe we'll find some Bigfoot evidence. If we don't, we don't. But this is Lord Rick from Susanville at the Copper Kettle. Peace. So let's try a piece of this roast beef, and I'll let you know if I give it a scale out of 1 to 5. Because if I like it, I'll go to Copper Kettle again. Let's see. Melts in your mouth like butter. Out of a scale of 1 to 5, I give it a 5. I am starting to love the Copper Kettle.